Okay, you're on. So, what's going on?
Okay. So, yeah, we've got the audio recording from yesterday, but I'll be continuing to use it now. Yesterday, I'll share mine if that's okay. If I not found.
What?
What?
Oh, it's because it's a Mac or something, huh?
No. It's because of this MacQuest. Ow. The computer. It is there. What do you mean not found? It's sitting right here.
What are you doing?
Okay, it doesn't matter. Right, you'll need to do it.
What am I doing?
If you go to, well, I can describe it first. Right. So, in this iterative loop, okay, so for the recording, because it was a voice recording yesterday, the key thing is working on definitions and having the components and the implications derived from it, which amplifies your mistakes in the definitions, and that allows you to go back and look very precisely at the definitions and change them slowly, and then you generate the new set of components, and it should be obvious, or it is obvious to me actually in doing this, up to, well, including context diagrams, but generating podcasts and so on. Your mistakes in the definitions jump out, but the base rock of the definitions is the thing. So, sorry, that's just for the recording for anyone who wants to care. If you go to that doc I just committed to dream catching, it's on the link that I sent last night or this morning, or whatever it is. It's in dream catching as.
Yes, calm down, I'm getting you.
Calm down. Hey, calm down. Sounded very scouse there. Sorry, you probably no idea what scouse is.
I can guess. No, I can guess.
Someone from Liverpool. It's not derogatory. It's somewhat. It's a bit like saying Scotty. Okay, right. So, in this feedback loop, I wasn't getting a derived context diagram. Now, a couple of things. Although we've been using Mermaid doesn't transform well. The models seem to know it well, but often make syntax errors and so on. However, what I've done is switch to UML3 Plantex UML in terms of what the information is inside the definition. However, I haven't told the model that's what I'm doing. But if you scroll,
so yeah. Hang on. That I have opinions on it. I observed you getting a lot of syntax errors from the UML diagram anyway, too, right?
Those are. I don't think I've had an error for like a couple of days.
Yes, you did. In the link that you shared with me, there was an error.
Was it? Oh, it's probably because it was the end of the day, and it's sometimes copy and paste errors. I apologize.
It was not a copy paste error. You sent me this chat, and this chat was lengthy, but it had multiple render issues, and I can see your text here saying things like, "Hey, this doesn't render."
Ah, right, okay.
It's not rendering. Check the syntax. Assume I copy and paste. Right? No, hang on. The issue is that no matter what diagram syntax you choose, you will always get a render error.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Now the key to that is something that we worked out a while ago, which is that if I feed back in the errors from the diagram rendering, then the model will get it right, possibly in the next go, worst case in the third go, because it knows about syntax errors in that language.
Yes.
Okay. And so what you're missing here What you're missing
Mm.
is that code module that does that little loop for you.
Right.
But
Right.
changing diagram languages is not going to help you.
Ah, right. Now,
The thing that will
what?
get you the best result is the popularity of the language and the verbosity of the rendering errors that it generates.
Okay. So, I didn't choose UML because of rendering, and I know that I said the exact opposite about 3 minutes ago. Um,
You see how
the
that might be confusing.
UML v3 is, I think, and this is probably personal preference, but it's a more complete way of looking at a system from different vectors
Why
than
do you need to look at it from different vectors when you're trying to get? I thought you were trying to get a set of definitions, and now we've got this relationship diagram has crept back in. What's going
um,
on?
uh, the uh, the reason I need different vectors is exactly what we are saying before. A vector, for example, is also generate a podcast, generate a blog post, so that I can see what the errors are in a
Right,
really
but
easy,
why would
consumable way.
are you? So let's name those things that are like podcasts, code, a UML diagram. Are you considering a UML diagram as one of those derived works?
Yep,
Yeah.
and
So what are we
this
calling those? Derived works, derivatives, amplifications,
well, the expressions, they're like renders, aren't they? It's like
consequences,
yeah,
deductions.
yeah. So all of it is take the definitions and then produce me
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah, so what's the name of that type of
Um,
output? Let me show you anyway while you ponder that, because the fact that you said says you don't know.
well, render sounds quite reasonable.
Renders, yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Oh, look, let's just ignore my doodling about how to get rich there. Um, so I want to turn what you said yesterday into a blog post because it's sort of our blog post charts our milestones.
hmm
Naps is a milestone. Um, I want to engage with you to figure out naming and agree on design or reasoning of the thing. I think what we're talking about is a reasoner workbench. I think that it's based on three principles: the internal adversarial refinement of base knowledge based on the principles of reason,
Yes.
which is to say that um, given just the AI model and and any given set of base knowledge with a preset set of prompts that are sort of apply to all kinds of knowledge. Like, is it internally consistent? Is it complete? Is it um, uh,
Complete and correct. Yeah.
all
Um,
those things? Is it orthogonal? Like, is it separate? You know, is there
yeah.
no overlap? All those things can be used to internally refine the knowledge to be referential.
Yes. And using natural language, if you are tight enough with the language, you can get something close to, even formal lemon logic, for example.
What is lemon logic?
uh, um, what is Penendo ponens, Tando tonens, all that kind of if this then that, if this then definitely not that. Um,
Did you mean lemur? Like LUMUR?
Lemon Logic
Lemon logic's not showing up
is
in
it
my Google.
uh,
A lemur.
it's Lemur, is it? I can't remember. It's been a few. No, it's not Lemur. It is Lemon. Lemond, maybe.
Le Monde.
It might be. Oh, let me check.
Le Monde.
Let me check because it is like the uh,
Le Monde.
structure of the of thinking really, at its
Okay,
most
so
refined.
all right. So there's different terms for that are approximate. I'll try and get away with some of them, like propositional logic, modal logic, temporal logic, those types of things, right? You're saying that
Yeah.
basically with enough internal grinding, you could get your base knowledge down to some form of almost a mathematical expression, but not quite because we actually don't need it to be like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
also
Because
the interesting thing is that the top level is uh, the kind of the meta thing is the definitions. If they are, um, pick your own logic schema. There's various. Uh, but if they are internally consistent, then you get really good results out the other side. If they're not, it's probably
yeah,
because you've made a
yeah.
mistake.
Okay, I know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm kind of saying that for the video. Yeah.
Please stop saying things for the video. That's my
Oh,
time. That's my time you're burning. You can make a
yeah.
video of your own if you want to talk to the video, but
Oh, hmm.
you're here to talk to me. I'm
I
here to
feel,
talk to you. I'm not. You want to make a video? Go make a video. I don't
I
want to
feel
sit
like
here and.
I feel like I owe you 60 seconds of your life now back. Shit.
It'd
Okay.
be more than that, buddy. It'd be more
All
than that.
right. Okay. Right. So yeah. So number one, yes, it's got to be
Yeah.
what was
So
it?
so the principles that I see, based on this loop that you were working in. The first principle is the maximum refinement of the knowledge itself based on the theory of knowledge.
Yeah.
Number two is generative amplification of that base knowledge into renderings that we humans are very familiar with, where
Yeah.
the process or the mechanism being employed is to amplify out what the base knowledge is, so that we as humans can detect it when it's been magnified. Um, and then the third step is the refinement of the base knowledge to pass errors, to resolve errors in the renders, and that's the key. And then you loop over, and you're like
Right. Right.
back to the
Exactly.
internal refinement, and then more generative amplification, and then fixing the renders again and again and again, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there's an interesting thing that maybe we don't want to put in, but on step two, um, when generating from the base rock definitions, a podcast is calling out to um, the Kent space of LLMs, so it knows about everything in the past, and so it can reach out in order to point out stuff that you said completely stupidly. So number
Yeah,
one
but
could
that's
be
just
completely, could completely correct, but that is quite a useful thing. Um,
yeah, that's different, eh?
yeah,
So okay,
but if all you want is to have it internally consistent, that's the loop. If you want it externally consistent, as in,
right. So it's not just for the sake of being appraised by a human. You're saying there's also some benefit in the LLM doing some appraisal of itself as it sort of dreams about these things, like a podcast, like how does it affect climate change, like all this. And while it's nattering to itself, it can realize that some of its definitions are too broad, need narrowing,
yeah,
contradict.
if it goes, off on one and saying, with this system, you can create a new primary color. It's like, how do you get that? Um, so you can be internally logically consistent and wrong. Um, by adding that kind of external part, um, it becomes blaringly obvious. But the key is that amplification, because it's quite hard beyond any simple, simply above a certain level of complexity. It is uh, increasingly difficult and often impossible for a single meat brain to actually figure out in
Yeah.
advance in one shot.
All right. So, and then what I also want to talk about in this blog post is that the process continues for multiple renderings, multiple render loops, and multiple people can submit errors and renders. Now,
Yeah,
this
it's
is the
kind of
key thing because if we can transform this into a social activity where there's a set of base knowledge, it's like the Ten Commandments,
that's
the
where you get the forward-looking, the human,
and then we
spice.
get two people like you and me looking at renders, either the same renders or different renders, or we're jiggling and prompting the system to be like, hey, why don't you make a podcast about the automakers show in Germany relating how the Dreamcatcher works there?
Hmm.
So we're sort of like, poking, prodding, getting renders, and then individually we're spotting errors in the renders. And now it's a team exercise that we're doing that modifies the base knowledge, and that I think is the kicker. Like that's the
Yes,
exciting thing.
and the thing with human brains are because of the amplification. What you're checking against is your gut experience of your entire life, and you go, No, that's just not going to work."
Mm.
But
Right,
it is derived again because you're only
right.
working on one thing, which is the base rock, the base knowledge
Yeah, and so
on the
in
side.
this case, the stuck loop would be where you detect an error in a rendering, and then the bot can't automatically solve it, and so now it stays as a stuck, right?
Yeah, yeah. And there is no limit to the types of rendering because we've got the definitions, the base rock, and if you wanted to, produce through AI, say, an entire Netflix series, and you're sitting there and going, "How did it come up with that?"
So, so
The,
what does this mean for us then? This thing,
well,
like, we got
it
to capture it, right? We got to capture it in a blog post at the very least,
yeah,
and then we got to
um,
actually build it.
yep. So you were talking yesterday about a workbench. Um,
Yeah.
the um, the workbench essentially would be a set of pipelines, I'm guessing, to produce renders from uh, a single base rock definitions document. Now,
How does it relate to the Dreamcatcher?
um, the Dreamcatcher. Well, this is actually outside of the Dreamcatcher. This is a very useful paradigm.
Does it bother you that we've come up with two useful paradigms that are outside of the Dreamcatcher?
No, it doesn't.
No. Why not?
No, because why would we want to stick everything inside the Dreamcatcher and overweight the Dreamcatcher? The Dreamcatcher is really quite
We
simple.
wouldn't.
It's
But
attribution and
having come
contribution.
up with two separate things in the last month that seem wildly valuable outside the Dreamcatcher after practically nothing in 2 years, one might be forgiven for suspecting there's a third on the horizon. And maybe there's a lot of things outside of the Dreamcatcher that are also valuable.
Well, I'm not sure about third, but I would say that it does indicate that we're walking on fertile soil at the moment.
Yeah, like anywhere you take a shit, a plant grows.
Yeah,
So, yeah, all right, but that's a different kind of problem in itself because fertility means the hordes are coming.
yeah.
Um, Now, but you said doesn't relate to the Dreamcatcher, but we agreed that there's a stuck loop here, and a stuck loop means the Dreamcatcher.
Right, but the reason I'm saying it's a paradigm. The stuck loop doesn't necessarily enforce a rendering thing. This paradigm
No,
is,
but
uh,
that's just why would this not be like any other app? Like this is not fundamental to the Dreamcatcher. This is just
yeah. This could be the render fallacy checker nap.
this is how we think that knowledge is best handled.
Yeah, And
using an AI.
yeah, and that NAP, we could build. Well, we would build that inside of the Dreamcatcher, but the Dreamcatcher attribution contribution is a system. The NAP is a thing, and it's there for people to use and discover. And maybe they do, maybe they don't, maybe they got a better idea. Maybe
It
they
just
just want
seems like
to.
a really good use of the Dreamcatcher. Like it's hard to imagine how to do this without the Dreamcatcher for that refinement piece, given what we're trying to extract, which is the internal workings of human ingenuity.
Well, I always feel the slight hint of danger whenever we talk about. It's hard to imagine sitting here in a VR world, you know, in our English-speaking countries. Maybe there is a better way. Um, the thing is, it is available, and we're going to use it, and it seems pretty powerful. And
Okay.
if
Okay.
someone else
All right.
comes up with
Well,
a better one,
yeah, I guess it doesn't actually matter if it's in or out of the Dreamcatcher. We're connecting it to the Dreamcatcher, and
it's,
we're building the Dreamcatcher with it,
it's
and that's
yeah, it's
yeah.
definitely an app. The workbench is definitely an app that's
It's definitely a
nappable.
nap,
So
right? Like
yeah,
it's not below the nap line,
yep,
and it's not below the Dreamcatcher line. It's
yep.
like it's a nap that can be supported or connected to the Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, I guess inside of the if we were talk about its relationship to the Dreamcatcher, uh, we've discovered a paradigm that seems to work and is now stuck because we don't have a workbench for it. That's a stuck. We're going to do that. Um, that is meat and two veg for the Dreamcatcher. It's no different from any other nap.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a beefy one though. It's a nice one.
It's a
Um,
beautiful one. It's a beautiful one. It's the answer to how do you use AI.
yeah, and that rendering thing is uh, really that amplification through render amplification, and you can spot it. Um, is unlimited in terms of what are those renders.
Mm. How would you use the system to reason about the customer section of the CRM, and how would you use renders to improve the CRM?
So the customer, what do you mean by be more specific on the customer bit of the first one? Because there's two questions.
Well, the CRM includes components like routing and accounting, um, invoicing. What I wanted was to just narrow down the scope of that one and talk about how it relates to just the customer record keeping piece of the CRM.
Customer record keeping piece. Okay, so the render would be one possible render would be to have a bunch of naps that are available for that render that are personas that we talked about before. Really grumpy person, really happy person, or someone who's actively trying to hack the system, and then probably get the output from that one into something that's more consumable, uh, like a report or a blog post or an adversarial conversation between two people talking about a situation, because that's where it really pops. Um, so in that case, if I wanted to improve the system that I've got available, I would take as much information, real world information as possible, train a bot or tell a bot about this. You are grumpy, you are nice, you are a hacker or trying to get cash nefariously. Um, Interact with that, generate a whole bunch of scenarios, and then get
Yeah,
an
isn't
adversarial
isn't isn't
discussion.
actually isn't this actually the way that you would build the CRM? Because you would get the customer, the commissioners of the system, the actual business owners, to lay down their internal rules, and then you'd run the internal adversarial, loop on it to polish it up and ask some more questions and show what holes there are, like before we even get going, right?
Yes, but the amplification piece
Yeah, yeah. So if you give me,
is
let me
like
finish. I'm getting to that.
okay.
So then, um, what you do with that is then the rendering would be user stories that the bots made, and then the humans would correct the user story, which would cause the bot to update the top level business rules in order to fix the user story.
Um,
Yeah?
the user stories would be another render.
Yeah,
So
user stories are just a render,
yeah,
and the commissioners of the system can talk to the user story and correct it, or they can ask their own one and be like, tell me a user story about blah blah. Okay, what happens if the customer starts swearing on the phone? Da da da. And then they sort of say what they would expect, and then the this loop here fixes the base knowledge to make the rendering appear correctly. And it's actually, if you look at it in that light, that's just simply system provisioning, I suppose.
it is, but well, yes, it is. Um, I'd add to that. Um, Automatically changing the base needs the test suite behind it of the things that you want to have, but remembering that you can change because of changing environment. You can change the definitions and break some tests, and that's okay.
Mm.
And so, in the same way as a test, so your TPS report is another thing that this loop can do. If you can amplify the TPS report in
Right.
order to uh, give you an idea about whether it
So
is actually broken or not.
is the TPS report or the list of tests that we were writing, the evals, are those really just examples of renderings?
Yeah, now you see it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the expectations you have of the outcome of an eval is the correction you're making upon the rendering, and you're saying that the the base knowledge, which includes the system prompts for the bots, the topography of the bots, all those things, that base knowledge needs to be changed so that the eval passes.
Yes. However, uh, it's more subtle than that. If uh, previously I've been banging on about Monte Carlo, I'm starting to think now we've got the this amplification process. Monte Carlo is looking really quite dated. Monte Carlo was really there in order to say give you some sense that you can get into a large amount of outputs. And here's really what the standout thing
Why
that
would
you
you
should
say
be
that
looking at.
Monte Carlo was dated?
Because if I were to say, right, we've run the tests, you made a change, we ran the tests, and we've gone 70% assurance, 95% probability that the tests have passed. Um, Inside of the TPS reports, some tests might have failed now, other tests might have passed that were previously done.
Mm.
You've generated new tests in there, and so that's really quite a gross kind of explanation of it. However, if you have an amplification through whatever your preferred thing is, that just points out or makes to stand out to your meat brain the weirdness or lack of weirdness of the change that they just made, you might actually want to say, this change that we've made, okay, so now a whole bunch of tests fail, but actually the whole thing is improved. I'll give an example. Say if the CRM
No, I don't need.
previously,
I don't need an example. I understand.
okay, got it. You see what I'm saying then? It's just
Yep,
another amplification.
I see what you're saying. I'm just thinking about it because um Because the evals seem different somehow, but I'm not sure exactly how. Like, it's almost like you're suggesting, or you might have been suggesting, that why Monte Carlo feels outdated is because if you have supremely correct base knowledge, that's better than this brute force assurance that we were previously chasing using evals.
Sort of. What I'm saying is, remember yesterday we were talking about AI uh, and evals and Monte Carlo are all can only deal with what's known, and humans can only deal with, you know, what's possible or what, the future. So Monte Carlo evals, LLMs are all backwards looking. But humans have the capacity through whatever consciousness.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
not go
So
into
so
that.
really,
Are
it's
powerful.
it really is two modes of testing that are both valid and necessary.
Yeah,
So evals would be a way of getting system assurance, but renders are a way to explore the frontier or the refinement, the improvement, the pushing forwards of the system by allowing the humans to add increasingly more precise restrictions or constraints or
or
requirements upon the
yeah,
system.
or dropping previous constraints because
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
change
yeah,
is better
yeah.
overall.
Overall, yeah. Okay.
And it's that interface between the two because take even a reasonably large report, 90-page report. Meat brains are just going, well, not going to read this. Now, you could put that into an AI, but that's only going to be backward facing with the report. And so you're going to lose that thing. Now, if you find a way of rendering it so that amplifies the weirdness, we're not asking the AI to define or find the weirdness. You're sitting there listening to the podcast, looking at, the chart and going, that's odd. Or in VR, in a field of, financial results, and there's a big hump over there. And you go, well, there shouldn't be a hump over there. Is that a good thing? What, in any way you want to render it. You could even render it.
Yep.
There's a great uh, for example, in uh, uh, astrophysics, rendering things as sound allows
Yeah.
you to pick out really clearly something odd happening
Yeah, that's
that
right.
in data you would just never see it. And that's another form of amplification.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so the reasoner is really about using AI to amplify domain knowledge to allow a human to refine it um, with greater precision than they would do at a one-to-one scale, which is how we are actually all currently used to processing information is for the most part one for one.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
amplification is where we see the far away effects of tiny, tiny errors. And this is like a magnifying glass
yeah,
upon the base knowledge, where our key operating assumption is that the cleaner your base knowledge, the more correct your LLM's responses will be.
yeah. And that
Yep.
base knowledge is the thing that you're working on.
Okay.
So it's like a car that doesn't feel right when you're driving it.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you going to do about that? Well, I don't know. Let's get a mechanics to look at it and says, well, what do you mean by it doesn't feel right? Uh, you
Yeah.
know, you're working
Right.
on a car.
So then, how does this relate to money? How can we stake against the quality of the base knowledge so that, because what you're saying with the mechanic metaphor is that you don't know exactly what's wrong, but the mechanic does. You pay the mechanic because he can amplify the system and has more experience and knowledge of your car than you do. And so how can we translate that to say, well, here's a system, we've amplified it out to the ends of the earth and we've sort of refined it endlessly. You if you want to trust it for something important and you want our assurance of it, you should pay into like an insurance pool or something like that. So how do you stake against the quality of the base knowledge? How do you offer an assurance in monetary terms that this system is good to go?
That's interesting. So the reductio on that one would be the system is absolutely pants. All it does, you asked for a fast trading system, and all you get is 42 every time you run it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Um, and it's like, how do you go from there? And it's like you don't need to render it too many times. It's
So
doing everything.
how can we, I guess, how
It's
can we express the level to which the system has been exploded out via renderings and corrected, so that I can look at a system or an app and be like, whew, that scores great in this metric. It must be good. Or it might be a case of I'm like, well, I really need this to work. And these guys assure me that it will. So if I
mm,
pay $50 in and it fails, they'll give me 2 grand.
yeah. I as an old phrase I usually use when I don't know the answers. Good question, well asked.
All right. Well, we'll
Um,
park that one then because that was a
um,
curiosity
Insurance would be the obvious one on that one, isn't it? So it's like um, insurance transferring risk. We make a statement. There's a risk that that statement is incorrect. For example, this NAP does that, um, and the risk usually is on the buyer. Buyer will beware, but they can insure against that, which would go through the gateways at the moment.
I feel a little bit like we got this great thing. Now we got two great things, and now we're a little bit lost.
Overgraded. Um,
Yeah, like we have. You can actually drown in good fortune, and
yeah. The thing is, as I was saying yesterday, this is slightly onerous, but very practical to hand crank this whole thing. And actually, I think that should be the way we do it to start with. Um, and prioritize the stuff that you're doing anyway around the naps, because as soon as we get the naps
yeah,
in,
we need the naps, right?
then
Fuck,
you know.
there's
So
just no getting
uh,
around that one. Hey,
yeah, so it's a matter of choosing priorities. This is a great idea, which I'll continue as a paradigm in the background. Maybe I'll you know figure out something that improves it, or maybe I'll figure out something that breaks it. Uh, but there's nothing stopping
yeah,
me going on and
okay,
doing this.
because what why I'm looking at it with keen interest is to make sure that the features of the NAT platform can support it and support it early as well. So that's
Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it? Everything we've got at the moment is uh, essentially a way. Well, let's put it, if the NAP platform was here right now, and we had the API links in or whatever, we could build exactly that loop that we were just discussing in a top level NAP that called other NAPs that gave you back whatever it was. Here's your rendering this, here's your rendering this. Have you got any problems? And it's like, oh, that's weird. Okay, let's look into that. Is that stuck? Possibly. Yeah, okay, it's a stuck. And then there's the kind of discovery where is the stuck. Everything in the structure in the naps would allow that to happen. Now, not straightforward to build all those naps, but the structure, I think, is not begging for anything in order to do that. Unless I'm missing something really obvious, it just seems, yeah, we could do that. It would
Yeah,
be really interesting to do it.
I just wouldn't want to miss anything. That's all.
And what's what's your back of your mind? Other than straight anxiety about fear of fucking up, is there anything that you're thinking this area is a bit loosely defined inside naps? It's like
Which area?
inside of the JSON, and yeah, use the JSON with natural language instructions.md. Is there any niggles, anything niggling at you? Because it's not the first time you said, "Oh, is this going to work?" And I'm blithely saying, "Yeah, as it's advertised, it'd be great. I could build that." Um,
The issue in mind now is because the the adversarial component, principle number one, requires a
mm-hmm.
lot of looping, and looping is difficult to present to the user because how do you show how we got there if the
Ah,
user wants to, you
you
know
mean perception? If it loops for 30 days, uh, for
right,
example, it
right.
just loops for real.
Well, no, um that would be fine if we had a way to present it, and then that's kind of that is actually a lot of data. Like, that's a lot of system calls generating a lot of commits, because that, I guess, that is true value, but it it makes a lot of permanent data. It's the sort of thing you'd kind of want to bin periodically or throw out,
Mm-hmm.
um, because yeah, it's working. It's
Mm,
just it's transient.
yeah.
So that's probably the only
So it's when to garbage collect, I guess, or how,
or
or should.
when to throw away the backup tape
Yeah,
is
yeah,
another
yeah.
way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
When do you overwrite the backup tape? Well,
Exactly. Well, it's
ideally
usually,
never.
yeah, but people usually go in diminishing returns, right? Let's back up, hourly, and then daily, and then weekly, then monthly, then yearly, and then, you know, every time it goes off the year, that's it when it gets done. And
Mm.
there's various other ways of doing it. But it's an interesting question. You're right, because throwing away information, ideally, it would be able to deal with everything and keep everything forever.
Yeah.
But
And then I think a bit of the fuzziness I have is around, like, right up till now, we'd been working in the branch that the execution is happening, but I'm shifting the model so that all the execution happens, and then when you reach a conclusion of sorts, that's when you make a commit to the knowledge branch or the base branch, because those branches were just getting ridiculously noisy, and
mm,
it was making it impossible for you to ever hope to commit back to GitHub and have it be meaningful. It's almost like I want to be able to check out someone else's repo, work on it on our platform using the reasoner, and then do one commit that just has all these magical fixes and then push it back. And they're like,
okay.
holy smoke, how did that happen? And you're like, well, here's a link to all the working that shows all the tokens burning, but you can browse that at your leisure. It's just not part of the Git history, lest we choke it.
I think that's fine because it's the question from the user level is how did you come up with that? That's weird.
Right. And so I guess that. So the reasoner workbench would you imagine that there'd be a collection of files that was the base knowledge, and then a
Yep.
collection of renders, and inside the renders folder there's like different types of rendering going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is a topic I was wanting to talk about actually. But yes, yeah, essentially that.
And then inside the renders, then now you've got stucks being made where people are like, that's not right, that's not right, that's really good, give me more of that. You know, like, what do I do with those? Are they just files in that repo, or are they? Is there some more universal storage space for stucks because you want to share them?
That's a okay. That's I think I detect a really important question there. Could you restate that again, please?
When I come up with a stuck, when I'm using the reasoner, where should I put the file that contains the data about the stuck? Should it be in with the rendering that it was against, or should it be external so that it can be identified globally?
Um,
Where do
so it
sucks go?
feels it feels like stocks are a wrapper for a set of events that didn't work.
Right, but that doesn't. Yeah,
But that wrapper involves, say, if someone's using something and the system did something erroneous, that in itself is a type of render. Using a live system like a CRM, and you see something weird, that's a render. Um, and the render in the human goes, okay, that's not right, and flags it. Now, the collection of data that you need inside that stuck is, well, why or how did we get here? And I'm not going to try and figure out right now. Someone else can. But here's my reasoning about, as typing in natural language. This is not right because we shouldn't be allowing, you know, aliens from Mars to, ask for collection
I
of
suppose that
records.
stucks. So I'd been planning to make the processing branch be a totally separate branch in this new design.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of being lots of branches, it was just one branch that held all of the computational threads within it. Um, there could be another branch of the same class or importance that was all the stucks. And so you had
Mm-hmm.
stucks that related to a particular repository were stored in that repository, but they're on a dedicated branch because the stucks can't be in the data because they need to represent a snapshot of the data, right?
Right, and that speaks to the kind of what you're going to do if someone says, right, you have to, I got a gun to your head, you have to solve this stuck. It's like, right, okay, tell me about the stuck. What's the process? And it can't be just the a human reporting. We shouldn't be collecting um, refuse from Mars uh, because you've got a complex system here. How did it ever even think that was a good thing? So you're going to want the context. You want that snapshot. You want to be able to replay it. You're going to want to sandbox it and make changes to the system at that point and see if that fixes it. Do that.
I guess to make things simple, I could just put the stucks inside the processing branch, just store them in their own folder there.
Yeah, but it feels like stocks
They seem like
are a thing.
a dedicated thing that warrants its own. Like, we're sort of agreeing that processing is separate from data, right? Like, we're saying
Yeah.
that the processing is all the computation and calculation, and we're keeping that separate from the output or the products of that data, of that computation. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it feels like, again, separately again, is all the stucks, which is where the computation could not process the data in some way. And so that's neither data nor computation. That's like this sort of like exhaust port where it sort of spits out this. It's like the entropy hole where it's like, whoa, whoops, and
Yeah,
then like
yeah, yeah.
the garbage chute where it's like, whoops, and out comes this thing, and you're like, that's a whole nother thing. But that makes the Dreamcatcher now deeply embedded in the NAP platform, because if the NAP platform knows how to generate stucks, then the NAP platform depends on the Dreamcatcher.
I see what you're saying. Yes, and actually, that answers one of my questions. Let me think about that, because you'll see from, uh, um, well, not in this one, but on the previous one, naps uh, seem to sit outside of the Dreamcatcher platform, because naps are reusable in other platforms, but um, you could take a nap, make your own artifact, make your own, and so on, and then run the nap because the nap is a format.
Right.
Um, However, what you're saying is it's more tightly linked to stocks because if you wanted to, I suppose you could just try zero shot writing a nap down using the format
No,
straight off.
because, well, one way I think about stocks is they seem a lot like GitHub issues. And so if
Mm,
I produce an npm package, then that would be a nap. But then the
mm.
issues about that nap would sit in GitHub, and so um, that would be just a separate but related part of the Dreamcatcher platform, where there's just a weak link between the nap and the stuck.
Wouldn't it make more sense though? I mean, the essence. Uh, uh, um, is there a need for like a library platform uh, which lists naps and stucks and
Yes, yeah.
includes the stuck loop, but doesn't necessarily use attribution and contribution if you don't want to? You could just turn up and do it, but you're not
Yeah.
going to get anything for it.
I don't know how to separate those things out. I think, why don't we just try and lump them all together and then see if that gives us some clarity on how to tease them out. But they seem a lot more related than we had previously thought. Like, you
Well,
can't.
the implication for the context diagram is, for example, the CRM now needs to sit inside of the Dreamcatcher platform, very much so. In fact, anything using naps has to sit inside of that
Yeah,
box.
because even though the platform is built using naps, the features that the those naps provide are like critical to function for all the other naps. Like the
Mm-hmm.
fact that the CRM can generate a stuck means that it's connected to the Dreamcatcher. Now, we'd always planned that and we'd always talked about that. And it could just simply be disabled. Like if you wanted, we could treat the ability to create a stuck just needs to be configured. And it's like if you want to make a separate way of making stucks or disable the ability to make a stuck, you just simply rewire the API that is the stuck making API in your nap, and you just switch it out or cut it off completely, and you're like, there you go, it's now unable to produce stucks.
Um, yes, uh, because otherwise the Dreamcatcher platform starts to look very, very centralized.
I know. Well,
Because the
yeah.
foundation says, right, here's a method and a format and a whole bunch of stuff you could do. And if you want to talk on inside of the gateway network as a legal entity, you're signing up to use that under GPL, whatever,
Mm.
and then we've built the or Robot Army say built this Dreamcatcher platform, which includes this lovely idea of attribution and contribution and so on. But you're free to have Nazi platform or a god platform or it is decentralized. We're not forcing everyone through Dreamcatcher platform because so long as you agree to, if you want to use the formats available through a gateway, the gateway has to sign up to the licensing of the foundation, and by becoming a legal entity that's interacting with at least one gateway, then you can use it in any way you want. And then the utility comes in sharing naps between different platforms. It's like one platform has produced this nap, and it's like, oh, it's actually useful
Nah, you lost me
somewhere
there.
else.
I disagree with that, but I don't think that we need to resolve that just now. So
Okay.
where are we going though? That's the thing. Like, what should we be doing right now? Right, like this loop is great but dangerous because you could probably study this loop for years and still have more left to study.
Well, we don't have to because remember, the very fact of it is this loop can be expressed as a nap, and then we just use it. Someone else wants to improve it and going, oh, actually, you could do it better this way, and that's the whole kind of improvement cycle, the stuck loop. So we don't need to do anything else other than get MVP kind of rendered loop.
All right, so we have to have the reasoner with a stuck loop with naps running on a JSON platform to be able to say, here is our offering in the world.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, the context diagram to go about 4 calls ago was there so that we can start doing explaining this to the outside world at various levels. And in order to do that, we need to be absolutely clear. Now, this paradigm helps us be absolutely self-consistent in explaining it to different people in any context. And if there's something weird, it'll pop out, and then we've also got that improvement loop on it. Now, that was the whole point of the context diagram, was outward facing. It's like, okay, now let's explain this and do some admin, like set up a gateway, set up Dreamcatcher Foundation, and so on. I still think that's the right thing to do because you've got a bit of time still to get the NAP format up and running. I don't think. Oh, I don't think there's what as expressed at the user level. If you count me as the user of NAPs, there's nothing that the NAP format is wanting for. In the back end, I agree about what is a stuck and where do you store that and so on.
Right.
And,
Okay. All right. So we'll just jiggle our way through that. I'll take a couple of shots at the goal, and then we'll just see how each one pans out.
Yeah, the I'll put a bit of thought into, say, if we had CRM platform on this context diagram. I'm not convinced it should go inside of the Dreamcatcher platform. In this case, is not the same thing as the attribution system, which is also a bunch of naps. It is something else. It's produced by using the platform, but it's not the platform itself.
No.
It seems to be external, and that implies that naps are also external.
Yeah, naps definitely are external, and like the contribution ledger, the attribution system, that relates to stucks. And users, when they break out into their different groups, can be either, just consuming naps or they can be taking part in the Dreamcatcher, which is the the thing that makes the naps, the commercial, the economic environment, the economic
Yeah, that's a
coordination.
better way of saying it. Yeah, yeah.
It's the Dreamcatcher is the economic system that
It's
makes
what.
the naps
Yeah, it makes naps. It provides a practical place to go in order to make naps in what
in one
we are
particular
arguing is
way.
most efficient. Yeah,
Yeah, in one particular way. It happens to use naps to do its machinery, but it's just one option to make naps, which are an open format running on an open platform that anyone's free to
yeah,
use. But the Dreamcatcher represents our take on coordinating economic effort to produce high quality naps very fast.
that's right. And we think we can do that faster than the traditional way, which you could take out Dreamcatcher platform and keep it in naps,
Yep.
and just hire a team of 20 for 18 months to get it slightly wrong.
Um, y- yes, you. We should also put Stux outside of the Dreamcatcher platform too, because Stux are independent
I agree
of
because
the
there might be a
platform.
yeah, it might be that um, after all, using a Ouija board to write code is a better way of doing it. Um,
Well, it doesn't.
you know,
It's not the Dreamcatcher is not about how you solve it. It's how you attribute
yes,
for solving it.
it's the Dreamcatcher platform is about aligning incentives in order to get people
Well,
mercilessly to turn up. And with
yeah, but more specifically though, because that's a very broad thing to say. More
mm,
specifically, it's about the attribution. It's about taking consumption payments and attributing them out to contributions, and that's it. Like the stucks are actually separate. The naps are separate. Um, and users, when a user is acting as a consumer, they're outside of the platform too.
mhm.
And it's just yeah, you're only really inside the platform when you act as a funder, a trader, um, or a demander.
Right, right, and
Sorry,
so
or talent.
yeah, and so I agree with that. Um, so the CRM would be outside of this,
Yeah, yeah.
but going through a gateway and getting all the goodness that comes with that. Um, and
So CRM's outside of the Dreamcatcher.
yeah,
It's the stucks that relate to the CRM are outside the Dreamcatcher, but the Dreamcatcher takes a copy of, if you will, the stucks, and it attempts to solve them using the solution methods of the Dreamcatcher system, which includes economic incentives.
it is. But there's also something here quite interesting. Say in the CRM, they come up with their own stuck, as in the traditional shit.
Right.
Does, we need to fix this. We don't know. It's almost Dreamcatcher is the place you'd take, you'd advertise a stuck to have the world help. But you could sit there and try and figure it out yourself.
Well,
And
no,
you would take,
because Stux just needs an interface in the NAP. Like you just need to connect it up to something that can receive Stux, which could be anything or could be left disconnected. But if you connect it to our instance of the Dreamcatcher platform, that's where you and I will get involved in it, and we got this mechanism for advertising it more
yeah,
broadly.
yeah, precisely. And by advertising, that equals connection. Making that connection is
Yeah,
advertising.
yeah, because we could connect the stuck interface of the CRM NAP. We could just connect it up to GitHub, and so that every time a stuck was created, it just created a new issue on GitHub, and that's
Yeah,
that. It's an It's a protocol, a very simple one for reporting a problem.
Yeah, right. Um, and it is if you are using consuming other naps and come up with a stuck, um, you would be advised to try and get that stuck solved through Dreamcatcher, sure. But if it was a really, I don't know, embarrassing stuck, like, our electric cars keep on bursting on fire and we don't know why. We don't want the world to try and help us fix that because it's a bit embarrassing. Then there's nothing stopping using the format to actually change that stuck into a nap. And then once changed, maybe they want to advertise the naps up again through a connection saying, hey, we've got this nap. Let's connect it through Dreamcatcher for consumption with other people. I think that works actually.
Hmm.
I think that works because that is decentralized. Nobody's forcing you to bring out your dirty washing.
No, that's right, and you could even have like a gateway for your stocks as well. Like before you publish them, they stay internal and they need to be reviewed so that you can be sure that only things that aren't sensitive are being published.
Yeah.
Right. So a stuck's just like a nap. A stuck is just a form of interface. It's like a JSON style interface to describe a problem. Just
Yeah.
like the nap has an agent field in it, which is how you interact with it using natural language, just like it has a JSON function interface, it should also have a stuck interface that is like a standardized format of how do you create a stuck relating to this nap,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then where you connect that to um, depends. It's like if you're a corporation, you probably want that to go to your internal pool first,
Yeah.
and then sometimes pass it off and send it out.
Right. I mean, kind of interact in that similar way in that you'd be sitting here going, shit, I don't know how to do that. Then I'll internally publish that stuck to you effectively. So you're not the whole world. Um, I don't have a place to put the stuck onto the whole world at the moment because it's really inefficient. But we've got the Dreamcatcher platform. Maybe I don't want the whole world to, you know, know about my, you know, incontinence problem, for
Oh,
example.
how's that going, by the way?
It's around it. Well, and the fact that I'm pissing myself every day. Yeah. No.
Okay, so the nap format I'll modify to be like this, where you say that there's a stuck nap that you is the thing that's going to use it. Where I'll say the stuck uh, the stuck. What would I call that? What is the
There's a
verb?
package.
What is the
There's
verb to stuck?
uh, I stick.
I stick the stick. Because so the agent. See what I've done here is the agent is is a tool call just like any other, and
Yeah.
it's what's special about it is that you can point to another nap to run it. Just like when you're in any other tool, you can specify another nap to run the tool
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
And so the agent is really just a tool call that's given special treatment because of the fact that there needs to be only one per nap, but Stux is the same. So I need like there's a for running the agent, I'm using the OpenAI Stuck. So it's like at artifact slash OpenAI is typically the runner. I should might as well just put that in there actually because that's the only runner we have right now, right? And so what
Yeah.
would you call the Stuck nap?
Uh, um,
What is it doing? What are you
I don't
when you make
know.
a tool?
I
You
don't.
don't. I don't know. What
No,
what do you
no, no,
what
no.
do you want it to? When you make a Stuck, what are the parameters of the function call?
That's different from the content of the parameters. So
What? This is the same.
the stuck is a bundle of it's a snapshot, right? Let's call it just a snapshot. Um, and it's like uh, I'm stuck, and here's where I got stuck. Now, I think what you're talking about is what you do with that stuck.
No, I'm talking about when you let's say you're running the CRM.
Mm-hmm.
You're running it and you recognize that you're stuck. Your issue is with the CRM. And
Mm-hmm.
so the CRM, I think, has the right to say how it would like to receive stuck information.
Oh, I see. For example, it could just summarize it and email out the devs, for example, is what
Something
you're
like
talking
that.
about.
Something like that, right? So I could make this the parameters of the tool call to the initial stuck snap would be something like let's just say title, which would be just what's it
Yeah.
about,
Mm-hmm.
description, right? I know these are wrong, but this is like,
Yeah, exactly. This is the state. This is the snapshot,
and then
and with a bit of
you'd
useful
say
information.
like
Yeah.
snapshot ID, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
the crypto ID, which would be like the repository.
Mm-hmm.
This is the universally and
Yeah.
securely
So that's
ID
where it is.
the
Yeah.
repo. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll say that the branch is this. Right. It's like, where was it? What was the snapshot? How do I know that I'm dealing with the authenticated data, using the cryptography pieces? What was the title? What was I trying to do? I might say that
Uh,
my eval, I could write some evals in here
mm-hmm.
where like what do my I could say expectations.
Yeah. It's why is this a stuck?
Yeah, right, and that starts to look like our testing format right there.
Yeah, and the other thing is, just to be helpful about it, is who was trying to do this when the stuck was found, and when the stuck is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
resolved,
So that
who does
that
it go
should
back to?
that you're correct, but I think that comes with the calling parameters. So it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like the when you get an email, you get the from field.
Mm-hmm.
You don't
Yeah,
you don't write the from field. It comes with the
yeah,
message by
yeah,
default. I think
yeah,
that's how that works.
yeah,
I can sort of see the beginnings of it sort of seems right here.
yeah. So it's just expectations, and then the outcome is a snapshot, I guess. Um, and then this is a description of the stock. The description is the thing that says why this is a problem.
I don't know, dude. I just made that up because everything has a description.
Yeah, it's some. I think that
Didn't you do some
is
work on a
the.
stuck format? Like, did you have a
I
sort
did,
of
but
a like? But it wasn't really.
yeah, it
It's
was a while
hard,
back.
right? Like it.
Yeah,
I mean, I know what my first stuck would be like. It would be like
hard to make
define
stocks.
the stuck format.
Yeah, we don't get to do that, unfortunately.
That
Which
would be quite a funny
sucks.
stuck.
Um, but the yeah the So if you think about it, for us to take a stuck in real life, saying, "Dude, I need to get over this river. I don't have a boat. I can't swim." Uh, and I was like, "Okay." So that is the description of what I'm trying to do, which is the expectation. Um, this is I was wanting a boat. I just shouted, "Anyone got a boat?" That my expectation was someone would come along as a boat with a boat. That didn't work. Um, okay, so the description of it really is why did nobody come along with the boat? Well, you can't just shout, and it's nighttime, and it was like 2 a.m. on a Sunday, and there aren't any boats anyway, you idiot. Um, so the description is a bit of analysis of it, which is the snapshot in terms of being in the
That's the full
uh,
context of how this thing,
context. Yes,
yeah, how it occurred.
context. Yeah.
Okay, well, look,
Um.
I mean,
We'll,
so
we'll get.
the way that I was handling the agent, right, is the fact that
Mm,
like as soon as you want to do Claude, right, so or anything from say Anthropic, all you would do is you'd just make a different NAP that was good at calling Anthropic AIs, and then the parameters of that function call would totally change because the parameters format is dependent on the NAP. And so what I was thinking is that
mm,
that's a great principle to apply everywhere because the Stux interface, if I want to change the format of a Stuck or like the destination or anything like that, I can just change out the Stuck NAP to be like um, corporate Stucks NAP,
or yeah, yeah, or
you know, and then
wow,
that
wow,
right,
ooh.
and that changes everything. It's like, what is your badge number?
And that's your connection, really. If you say external stuck.
Well, yeah. So I could do this and delete it completely, which means it just goes to whatever the default is that you choose, or I can
Mm,
come with something that's initially provisioned, which would have been just simply this thing,
mm.
or I can modify how it came, and then I've got the corporate stacks and all of these ways of handling stuck. So because naps are just sort of wiring up different functionalities to each other, that's all that does, right?
Well, what we'll do with that is if there was, uh, say, if we wanted an escalation process, um, the it goes first to dev stucks, then it goes to CTO stuck, then it goes to I don't know, group level IBM stuck, and then it goes global, and it's like there's an escalation process. So what I'd wrap that in is another nap, which would be stickier stuck in here. And after 30 days, if nobody's
Oh
solved
yeah.
it internally, oh, what are you saying?
Sorry, it was unrelated to what you're saying. OpenAI
Right.
finally started publishing to JSR.
Hey,
Hey,
oh, that's kind of them. Ah,
so they released it a week ago. Good
ah,
stuff, people. Thank
well done,
you,
Kevin. Kevin, scrunchies.
Kevin, mate. How you doing?
Mm-hmm.
So where I was sort of going with all this is that, like, see how this is the homepage of the OpenAI npm package, and like they have here issues. 68. So issues would be like stucks for us.
Mm-hmm.
Pull requests would be like that's how many pull requests are open right now. For us, that'd be like uh, probably about the same concept. Really, it's like here are solutions that have been put against this NAP that haven't yet been accepted by the automated merge tool or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then issues is just that's just GitHub issues, so that's an easy one to mentally map, and you can sort of look at all the
Mm-hmm.
stucks that relate to this package. Um, yeah, I think that's the way to go because I don't know what you would name the metadata type things that surround a package. Like for example, the issues. Um, but there's also like there's issues of funding as well. There's pull requests, which is activity. There's like consumption, and so for us, we would say for us we would have like token burn rate as well, like how many AI
Mm-hmm.
tokens did this NAP burn across the known universe from everyone who shared it. Um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Seems again quite centralized though, doesn't it?
what do you mean? How is that centralized?
Because the token rate depends on which gateway you're burning on.
What? You could burn on multiple ones. What's the
You, you,
difference?
you can, but only if there is some kind of agreement between jurisdictions,
I don't think that. I
between
don't think.
gateways.
Well,
So uh,
yeah. Like
gateways
I don't
provide
want. I
certain.
don't want. I don't want to get
All
into
right,
that. That's
okay,
just way too
all right.
complex.
It's all in the definitions if you want to check my current thinking on that. Um, but the point I was making is that uh, the um, the stuck format, and well, we've got the NAP format. The stuck format feels like a similar kind of thing. The NAP format is transferable to anything that runs using the structures put in place by the Dreamcatcher Foundation. Uh, it runs on Dreamcatcher platform. In fact, Dreamcatcher platform is built from it. However, a CRM, which is outside of the platform but built with the platform, also uses it because it just conforms to the NAP format. Stock format feels a similar kind of thing. Um, and again, maybe it comes down to the level of discovery. Do you want to discover it by only internal? You're stuck. Do you want to keep it, your dirty washing inside, or do you want to tell the world about it? Or in this case, you put it on uh, one package thing, and you got a bunch of issues there. But how do those issues relate to another repository? Maybe they're coming up with the same issues.
I'm sorry. I lost track of the point you're trying to drive at there.
The point I'm trying to drive at is stucks sound like naps insofar as if everyone uh, is running inside of the structure that's offered by the foundation, they can take that stuck into Dreamcatcher platform and get the world to do it, or maybe they want to do it a different way. Maybe they want to keep it internal. But the format doesn't change.
Yeah, the format stays the same. So the format is just like the JSON function format, just like the NAP format.
Right.
Stux is actually a format rather
Yeah.
than a. I think I'd been thinking about it previously as like a service, which was irreplaceable, but actually it's a format, and how you choose to what you choose to do with that format is entirely up to you. And the
Yeah.
Dreamcatcher that we are producing is just one instance of something that can process the stuck
Yeah.
format, right?
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
like there's GitLab, GitHub, there's Microsoft DevOps, there's all these things. They all share the Git format, and are interoperable in that way, but all offer something a little different in
Exactly.
various
And
ways.
for example, inside of a company, I could write an app that says, okay, uh, stick your stocks here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to reach out to any
I think
connected.
yeah, I think I get it.
You got it. Okay. Right, right. But
I'm sorry. I'm
okay, so
sorry to
we're
cut you off so much. I'm just like I feel like
no.
we give a lot of examples, and I'm like I get it. I'm not concerned with understanding these properties of the platform. My concern is deeper than that. Um, it's about all these things are starting to come together, and I'm nervous that we're not considering the whole. We're very
Which
good at considering the things that we have been focused on, but there are things that are required for the connectivity of those components that are not getting any attention, and that's what I'm worried
yeah.
about. I'm worried about things we're
Um.
not looking at.
Okay. Right. Is that known unknowns or unknown unknowns or whatever it is?
It's not
Um.
nothing as cut and dry as that. It's more like saying, look, so over here, right, we got
Yeah.
this fund this package button.
Yeah.
So that would be like what we have with funders.
Yeah.
You've got the issues button,
Yes.
which with a couple of clicks you can make a new issue, which basically that's the stucks, uh, the pool of stucks,
Yeah.
right? And then we've got like pull requests, which is like contribution, so that's like talent. What is
Yeah.
the name that you give to all this metadata, this this production level? It's like there's the package, and then there's all these kinds of concerns like economics, feedback, uh, contribution, popularity, quality. Like, what is the name of that group of concern? Because that is what the Dreamcatcher is about.
Um. So we're talking about, in this case, an issue which has been funded on this package against a NAP. Someone has got one solution to that stuck as a pull request.
Mm.
That thing.
What is that economic environment called? Like that's the Dreamcatcher to me, but we haven't concretely defined what you call those concerns. They're like lifecycle concerns. They're you know developer salaries, business premises, address registration, licensing. There are all these like issues about the code. They're not the code itself.
Yes.
Does
So
that
you're
does
you're asking for a name.
Yeah, because that's what the Dreamcatcher is, and we need to name it. Otherwise, we keep the more we have unbundled concepts, the more we end up needing to speak in examples. But if we could tie them all together in a unit and say this is that thing, then we can free our minds up to deal with the next level of problems.
So we're not talking about the practical things of where is this stored or anything like that. We're not
No,
talking about
no,
licenses. We're talking about
because the Dreamcatcher platform is trying to at the moment everything you see in this panel is provided by an external thing. Like funding the package is separate to where the issues come from, is separate to where the package goes, is separate to how the downloads go, and you can't even see on here where it's being actually used. Like you've got no runtime data on it. You can't see what code paths are hot within the system. You can sort of see who's depending on it. Like here's the packages that use this package, but does that help you? Which parts of this package do these bits rely on? Um, it's like, then you've got who released the package. Well, these guys, but you know, uh, who the hell are they? And why do they get to say when there's a new version? If there's 144 pull requests, how do I know that one of those pull requests isn't far better than the version I'm using? Right? So, like, release permissions, the politics of the thing, that should be AI controlled, and AI should be determining it's time to release, right? So, there's all this, like, group of things that is the Dreamcatcher that in the current environment um, is all disparate and all over the place, right? And then don't even get me started on if you want to host this thing on the cloud. Like, that's just a whole nother world of pain, right? And so, really, the Dreamcatcher is trying to bundle that whole thing as one. That's why it's such a mind melting thing. It's trying to all those concerns, and they are many. We're saying that if you look at it just the right way and approach it down a very narrow, well disciplined path, you can present that whole thing as a single monolithic ecosystem, an economic ecosystem that we think can outperform this disjoint fucking thing, if only for the fact that we can talk about it as one thing versus the fucking split across all of creation that you currently have to deal with when you want to just run your damn app. Okay, and that's my problem. That's why I'm like, I don't. I, it feels mean to say it, but I don't need any more examples. Sure, there's details in there that I'm missing because you've been deep in it and all that, but those things are not of concern to me. I'm confident that they will shake out and that we know them enough to work with them. But what we don't know is we haven't unified all of these attributes, these coordination problems, these economic incentives. These things are still loose in our minds and in the world, but our purpose as a Dreamcatcher is to weld them together.
I don't disagree with that. Well, I guess the key to that, and there are various ways of answering it, but the question to answer first is, do we force everyone to go through the Dreamcatcher platform and then be distributed? CRMs all over the place and so on, but everyone comes back to the Dreamcatcher platform.
No, we don't need to force it. We just need to define it and invite people to use it. And we're like, you can come back into, because the key unlock for me was being able to think of everything as an interface. So the NAP interface, the stuck interface. And so we don't want to force anyone to do anything. We're just like saying, here's these formats, and then we're offering a unified package in the Dreamcatcher and trying to say what the benefit to you is if you choose to participate. You can still use all the software outside. It's all compatible with the conventional stuff. But if you run it all as one and you give up on the idea of you want control, you want choice, you want all these things, if we can win your trust that we're actually better than you at it and better for you at it, and you unify your processes and just use this one thing, we want to prove that that's vastly economically superior to this other method that I can't even fit on one browser page. And I think what I'm asking from you, and why I keep poking at the context diagram, is I want that kind of view, because that is what the Dreamcatcher is, and I can sort of fuzzily see it for the first time, but I need it captured.
So if you go back to that current context diagram, which was generated just a few minutes before coming on the call,
Which is very good. I gotta say, I like it.
well, it's the with our paradigm of renders and iterations, this is where we should be talking. So this is where we spot the weirdness of
Yeah. Do you want me
having a
to
fuzzy
say what
idea.
I see wrong here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now I really need to get going. Probably
Okay.
in about
Okay.
5 minutes, but I'll
All right.
drop a bunch of negative comments and then run.
Yeah,
Um,
go for it.
I think that the naps come out,
Yeah.
contribution stays in, the consumer user comes out.
Okay.
I would rather see users change to actors, but you might have some, some reason for keeping it there. Um, this arrow is, I think it's meant to be two-way, but it's hard to tell
Yep. Yeah.
what it's doing. Payments has no arrow. Um, I like this diagram because it's simple and clean, but when I look at this web page and I talk about all the things that I just described, like where do I host it? How many
Mm-hmm.
stocks are there? Who said when to release? How do I report malware? Like, I don't know how those relate to this diagram, but it feels like to define the Dreamcatcher platform, you should be talking about all those dimensions of software concerns, or corporate slash ecosystem slash coordination slash economic concerns, because that's what narrows down the Dreamcatcher.
So at the moment, what being see at the top, or just unilaterally called the entire thing the Dreamcatcher system,
Mm.
and that incorporates the platform, which is really NAP production.
Well,
Um,
I would that title should be Dreamcatcher Context, because the Dreamcatcher system is just one box within. It depends on these other things. Like, it depends on there being a healthy, strong JSON function calling NAP platform. It doesn't. That NAP platform doesn't, strictly speaking, depend on the Dreamcatcher, but the
uh,
Dreamcatcher definitely depends on it.
so at the moment, where that would be is the Dreamcatcher Foundation provides the format that is used. A gateway is contracts Deno to run it, and the
Mm.
Dreamcatcher platform consumes Deno through that gateway. So that's in this diagram. That's how that would work.
Yep. Um, that seems fine.
And similarly for uh, using different platforms with different issues recorded and funding and all that kind of thing, that feels like the path should be the same. It should be the gateway hosts an API that allows information to be used by um, the Dreamcatcher platform to bring all this together.
I don't see why the gateway network would have to have anything to do with any of that.
Well, the gateway network is there in order to abstract away the need for individual contracts, agreements on T's and C's and so on, is a thing that exposes these for use inside of the overall system and the platform itself, uh, without having to individually go as a user and sign up to GitHub and JSR and whatever, and then we're back to where we
So
are.
you're talking about how to connect into GitHub.
Yeah, this is
Right.
all about
Yeah, but
connections.
yeah, I don't think that matters at all for the context of the Dreamcatcher, because the the feature I wanted to capture was that the Dreamcatcher platform relies upon the Stux interface. It doesn't care that it's on GitHub or anywhere at all. It's just simply making it obvious how important the Stux format is in terms of the standards and protocols that the Dreamcatcher Foundation provides. We should list what those are, and those include the format of a Stuck.
Yeah, that's right. And the diagram supports that. So we don't care that it's running on Deno. Well, kind of do, but if a better Deno comes out, it's not going to change
No, no,
anything.
no, no. So yeah, I guess what my concern um, is that whilst this loop is brilliant, that um, you could apply it. You might be wasting time in terms of how fast it would be for you once we had it built. And so, what seems to be not fast for you, whether we had this thing built or not, appears to be like the first 70 or 80% of the cycle. It seems like
Mm.
you get really massive gains very quickly, but then the lack of automation slows down your progress from about 70% up.
Yeah, you mean the cut and paste overhead sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah, because the first, like, running through this loop, say 4 times to pick a number, seems to get you to within about 80% of the final goal, just anecdotally,
Mm.
which sort of sounds reasonable as well. Like,
Mm.
and but what I think is an uneconomical use of your time is to continue on past that point, because the extra gains are not worth the overhead that's coming from pasting, simply because we're just waiting for the platform to come online, and then you'll get that next 20% gain in a couple of hours type of thing.
Yeah, but at the moment, I'm working to generate this context diagram.
Okay.
Um, and I don't have the platform available to gain that last 20%. So
Right.
I'm still in cut and paste
Right.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yes, I know. I'm suggesting another alternative, and
Mm.
you know, far be it from me to try and tell you what to do, because I mean, landing the reasoner was just absolute fucking gold, gotta say. Um, my opinion of it is that the the ecosystem concerns of the Dreamcatcher have not been addressed, not nearly enough. All of the reasoning that you've done so far has all been inward looking or downward looking. Like, we have a discussion, and then you go from that point down, down, down until you hit the ground of naps. But there's still a ways to go up before we can look down completely. There's still some things above us. Those things are the economic concerns of what every NPM page says. Those those parts don't really feature in any of the things that we talk about or the commits that you do. I think that those are missing attention.
Okay, so that's is it, uh, if we're to express that as a stuck,
Hmm.
which was, what I think
Yep.
you're saying is there is all this is fine, and this doesn't show the whole detail
No, but
in
I
the
like this
definitions, but
diagram. I really like this diagram. Yeah.
the you're looking for a layer above that, which addresses. You got a specific example there, which is you've got a whole bunch of uh, um, fields in disparate websites scattered around the world that all
Mm.
are sort of like a stuck, sort of like funding, sort of like
Yeah.
so
Sort of
on.
like hosting.
Uh, how where and how do these come together? So
Yeah.
it's kind of a logical layer, but at a kind of interface level.
It's more like saying that those things should be pulled down into the context diagram somehow because they are what the Dreamcatcher aims to do. And I think that we have been pretty consistent about always talking about that whole roundhouse of things, but we don't ever capture it in one spot. If we were to capture it,
Yeah.
the benefits would be quite grand because we could say who we're competing against.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
what that means
Yeah.
is that whilst we're saying that, we're trying to provide a unified experience where I don't know anyone who's trying to do all those things, be AWS, be GitHub, be NPM. Um, no one's trying to do all those things all at once.
So really, is this like a inside of a similar context diagram for the various requirements of passing around the API calls to whoever that maps over to the stuff that we know about in terms of stocks and attribution and contribution and so on.
Sorry, can you ask me the question again? I didn't understand it.
So in terms of context diagram is outward looking. So these
Yeah.
are things in the real world. Doesn't say anything about attribution algos or loops or stuck loops or anything like that.
Oh,
So what
it. No, no, shit. That's not the context diagram. Crumbs. It's more like the internal features of the Dreamcatcher because what I'm getting at is what I was getting at earlier is that some of these parts need to come outside of the Dreamcatcher platform because they're not the Dreamcatcher platform,
Mhm.
but there's extra things that need to go into the Dreamcatcher platform that aren't there, and those are to do with the software development lifecycle concerns that I outlined on that NPM example page.
and so it's quite a slippery stuck to define, isn't
This
it?
is this is
Um,
why I want to hit this one because it's damn well difficult to even say or not say. That means that it's of vital importance to capture it because we've run over all the stuff that you have here. We have in fact run over that. We are easily at 80% definition for all of these things. Would you agree with that's a reasonable
it,
number to pick, right? Probably
yeah,
more, really.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we're at 0% for this thing that we're trying to talk about right now. And that's what to me is economical use of time. Hit the thing that's the hardest thing. You yourself like to apply that as a tactic. I think
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
madness
absolutely.
personally, but
The trick
that's
is naming that thing.
naming that thing. Yeah.
Saying let's hit this thing.
Yep.
It's like, all right, it'd be. Let me think about whether there is.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I
well,
gotta.
you got to go anyway. Yeah, yeah. Let me think about the. What was I about to say? Is, it would probably this has got to be a solved problem. If it's a solved problem, the
It's got
LLMs know about it.
well. It's got to be
Um,
named, right? It's got to be
this sort
studied,
of problem.
named. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it is unique that we are trying to do all of those things as one thing, and it would typically be called madness to try and do that. But we're like, no, no, we can do it. Um, with these benefits because we're taking this unique approach. And that's why when you're like, who are the competitors to the Dreamcatcher? I was like, well, we haven't found anyone mad enough to try and combine all these things as one. And here's it working. So clearly it's better
yeah.
in a way.
It's
It's
right.
curly, right?
Tomorrow, I'll at least try and define what that stuck is a bit better. Avoiding the use of words like thing. Um, this must be tractable because essentially what we're saying is how do different elements of systems interact.
Right.
Um,
Are you okay if I stop the recording now?
yeah, yeah, go for it.